The wind was sharp and cruel on Dravari Prime. Cold air cut through the streets like a blade. Neon signs flickered above dark buildings. The ground was covered with frost, and the sky was full of smoke. Elira stood barefoot in the shadows of a broken alley. Her thin dress was torn, her arms wrapped around her small chest. She was shaking. Not just from the cold, but from fear, hunger, and sadness. Her skin was pale violet, with glowing blue eyes that once held light. Now they were tired and empty. The city didn't care about her. Ships flew overhead. Aliens of all kinds walked past her. No one looked, no one stopped. She had been on this planet for 3 weeks, and in all that time, not a single soul had spoken to her kindly. She whispered to herself, "All I have are my clothes." It was the truth. She had nothing, no credits, no food, no family, and now, not even her dignity. Her small hands reached for the hem of her dress. She lowered it slowly, standing in the freezing wind. Her body ached, her heart screamed, but her stomach was louder. If stripping brought her food, she would do it. Anything to survive one more night. People looked, laughed. Some took pictures. No one helped. She cried silently, her tears freezing before they hit the ground. Then a man across the street stopped. He was tall, in a heavy black coat, his face hidden under a metal hood. But his eyes, human eyes, locked onto her like lasers. He didn't laugh, he didn't turn away. He crossed the street slowly. Elira took a step back, scared. She had seen men before, and most brought only pain. But this one knelt in front of her and took off his coat. He wrapped it around her gently. His voice was deep but soft. "You're cold." Elira didn't answer. Her lips were blue, her hands stiff, her legs shaking. She expected him to shout or hit her, but instead, he picked her up in his arms like a fragile thing. The warmth of his coat was strange. "Unfamiliar? Don't be afraid," he said. "You're safe now." The crowd watched in silence as he walked away with her. Some whispered, others frowned. Helping a street alien like her was not just unusual, it was risky. But the man didn't care. His name was Commander Yolan Reese, a war hero. A respected officer in the Terran fleet. He had fought in 3 major wars, led missions, and saved planets. But none of that mattered right now. Right now, he was just a man carrying a freezing child through the night. He took her to an old spaceport shelter on the edge of the city. It was quiet there. Away from the noise and eyes, he placed her on a soft chair and started the heating unit. Elira looked around, unsure, scared it was all a trick. Yolan brought her food, a warm protein bar and hot water. She stared at it, then at him. He nodded. "Eat, it's yours." She grabbed the bar with shaky fingers and devoured it like a wild thing. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she drank the warm water. Her body finally started to relax. "Where are your parents?" he asked. Sitting across from her, she looked down. Gone. He didn't push. Instead, he said, "You can sleep here tonight. No one will hurt you." Elira didn't believe him, but her body was too weak to run, too tired to stay alert. She curled into a ball on the chair, clutching the coat tightly. Her eyes closed slowly. Still wet with tears, Yolan watched her for a while. Something in him shifted. This was no ordinary rescue. There was something about her, something broken yet strong. He didn't know her story, but he would learn it, and maybe, just maybe, he would be the one to help her write a new one. Outside, the cold wind howled again, but inside that little room, a small warmth had been born. A human had stepped in. And everything was about to change. The morning light was dull and gray. Rain tapped softly on the shelter's roof. Commander Yolan sat beside the small heater, sipping a cup of bitter coffee. Elira was still asleep in the chair, wrapped tightly in his coat, her small frame barely moving. She looked peaceful now. But he remembered the fear in her eyes the night before, the way she had shaken. The way she had eaten like she hadn't tasted food in days. Something inside him had broken. Watching her suffer in silence, he didn't know her name yet, didn't know her story. But he had already made a choice. He would not leave her behind. A knock echoed on the metal door. Yalin stood up slowly and opened it just a crack. An old Dravari woman looked up at him, her face hard. "You brought one of them in," she said. Coldly, "They don't belong here, Commander. You know the law." Jalen's voice was calm but firm. "She's a child, freezing and starving. She's a thing," the woman hissed. "You don't know what she is, what she could be." Yalin shut the door without another word. Behind him, Elira stirred, her glowing eyes slowly opening. She looked at him, scared, unsure. Yalin walked over and knelt beside her. "You're safe, remember?" he said gently. She nodded slowly, but didn't speak. "My name is Yalin," he said. "Can you tell me yours?" Her lips moved, the words barely a whisper. "Elira." "That's a beautiful name," he said. And she blinked like she wasn't. Used to hearing kindness, he handed her another protein bar, and she took it carefully. Her eyes never left his face, as if trying to read his soul. "Why did you help me?" she asked, her voice rough and dry. Yolan didn't answer right away, instead. "He looked at the rain through the window, because no one else did," he said at last, "and that's not right." Later that day, Yolan took Elira to the local med station. It was a risk. He had no guardianship papers, no legal authority. But he couldn't let her suffer. The doctor scanned her body and paused. There were marks under her skin implants. Old bruises, burned scars. Where did she come from? The doctor asked quietly. "She was on the street," Yolan replied, "naked, starving." The doctor frowned. "She's been used." Yolan nodded, his fists clenched. Elira sat quietly, her head down. She didn't cry. She didn't move. It was as if pain had become normal for her. After the checkup, they returned to the shelter. Yalin opened a private channel to his command base. He sent a message to a trusted officer. "Need help locating alien orphans' records. Possible trafficking victim. Confidential." Within hours, a reply came back. No ID, no birth records. No known species registry. Officially, Elira didn't exist. She was just one of the forgotten. That night, Yalin gave her a small blanket and a pillow. She lay down on the floor near the heater. Before closing her eyes, she looked up at him. "You don't have to keep me," she whispered. "I'm used to being alone." Yalin looked at her with gentle eyes. "You're not alone now," he said. "Not anymore." But not everyone felt the same. The next morning, 2 officers from the local council knocked at the shelter. They wore gray uniforms and cold smiles. "You have an unregistered alien female in your care," one said. "Hand her over." Yolan stood tall. "She's under my protection," the officer scoffed. "She's not recognized as a citizen. She has no rights. She has my protection." Yolan said again, firmer this time, "You're risking your career, Commander," the second officer warned. Yolan stepped forward. "Then I guess it's worth the risk." The officers left, but not without threats. Yolan turned back to see Elira watching from behind a curtain. Her eyes wide with fear, but also something else. Hope, maybe. Just a little later, Yalin went to the council office to file for temporary custody. He was denied instantly. "She's not classified as a sentient life form," the clerk said. "She doesn't meet the standards for adoption." "What are your standards?" Yalin asked, not being found naked in the street. The clerk replied coldly. Yalin clenched his jaw. "Then your standards are broken." Back at the shelter, Yalin told Elira the truth. "They won't let me adopt you." "Not yet," Elira nodded, as if she had expected it. But when Yalin sat beside her and placed a hand gently on her shoulder, she didn't pull away this time. "You still want me here?" she asked. "More than ever," he answered. And for the first time in weeks, Alira gave a small, tired smile. Outside, the city continued as usual. Ships flew by, people hurried, but inside the shelter, something rare was growing: trust. Human had defied the system for one forgotten alien girl, and the world was starting to notice. The rain had stopped by morning, but the air was still heavy inside the shelter. The heater hummed softly as Alira sat on the floor, legs crossed, coat still wrapped tightly around her small body. Commander Yalin sat beside her, watching her. Quietly, he had not gone to work. He had not answered any calls. He had made a silent promise to stay at least until she was safe. "Do you remember where you're from?" he asked gently. Alira looked down at her feet. There was silence for a long time. Then she whispered, "A ship with other girls like me. They took us from our planets, from our homes." Her voice cracked, but she continued. "They said we were too weak to be soldiers, too dirty to be workers." Jalen's hands curled into fists. The galaxy had dark corners. He knew that. But hearing it from her small voice was like being stabbed in the chest. "What did they do to you?" he asked softly. Alira raised the sleeve of her dress and showed him her arm. Under her pale skin were faint blue lines, bioscars, tracking implants, nutrient injectors, control tags. Yalin leaned forward carefully and scanned it with his wrist. Device, the display lit up. Expired salvage class for dispose at will. His jaw clenched. "You're not trash," he said, voice shaking with quiet anger. "They treated you like cargo." She nodded slowly. "I ran away when they were changing ships," she whispered. "Others were too scared to move. But I couldn't stay. I ran into the city and hid in trash bins. I lived under a stairwell, then in a tunnel no one looked at me until you." Tears formed in her glowing eyes, but she didn't let them fall. "I thought maybe if I took off my clothes, someone would throw food at me like they do with pets. I didn't know it would make them laugh." Yolan couldn't speak. He just placed a hand gently over hers. She flinched, but didn't pull away. "You're not a pet, Alira," he said. "You're not trash. Or salvage, or broken. You're a person." Her lips trembled. Like those were the first kind words she'd ever heard that afternoon. Yalin took Alira to an old friend, Dr. Rena Thorne, a retired fleet medic who now worked off the books. Rena was tall, gray-haired, and sharp-eyed. She scanned Alira quietly and gently. The machines beeped and buzzed, showing deep internal scarring, malnutrition, and multiple implant removals. "She's been through hell," Rena said, shaking her head. "She's lucky to be alive." Alira sat silently, hugging her knees. Rena gave her a protein shake and vitamins. Then she looked at Yalin and said quietly, "You know, keeping her puts a target on your back, right?" Yalin nodded. "I know," Rena sighed. "Then don't do it halfway. She needs safety. Papers and name in the system." That night, back in the shelter, Alira looked stronger. Her color was better, her eyes more awake. She sat on the couch, holding a datapad Yolan had given her. It showed stars, planets, maps of space. "Do you like space?" he asked. She nodded. Before they took me, I wanted to be a pilot. I used to draw ships and stars on the walls." Yalin smiled. "Maybe one day you still can." Alira blinked, surprised. "Even after all this?" He looked at her and said firmly, "Especially after all this." Suddenly, the door beeped an alert. Yoel walked to the screen and tapped it. A message appeared. "Surveillance notice. Unauthorized alien detected within. Human housing block, surrender immediately or face consequences." Alira dropped the pad. Her body froze. "They found me," she whispered, voice full of terror. Yolan turned off the screen and locked the door. "It's okay," he said. "They're just trying to scare us. But if they come, I'll stop them." She looked at him, small hands shaking. "Why are you doing this for me?" she asked, No one else ever did. Yalin knelt down, looked her in the eyes. Because I was a soldier once, trained to protect the weak, and I see you, he said. I see someone worth saving. Elira's eyes filled with tears. But this time, she didn't wipe them away. She let them fall quietly, like rain. Outside, the city moved on. Unaware, but inside that shelter, something beautiful was happening. A broken girl was starting to heal. Not because of medicine or food, but because one human had looked at her and seen a soul. Elira sat by the window, watching the world pass by. Her hands clutched a warm cup of soup, steam rising softly into her face. Outside, the streets of Dravari Prime moved fast. Ships flew low. Market vendors shouted, and people hurried past one another without looking. But inside the shelter, everything was quiet. Yulin typed on his holopad, face serious. He had been busy since sunrise, calling contacts, filing reports, sending encrypted messages. He was building something quietly, something dangerous, a case, a fight. A wall to protect one alien child from a cruel galaxy, Commander Reese. A cold voice called through the shelter door. He stood up instantly, hand on his sidearm. Elira dropped her cup, startled. It's okay, he whispered to her. Then walked to the door. Outside stood two council agents, both in sharp black uniforms with golden badges. Behind them was a hover van with blinking lights. One agent was short and gray-skinned, the other tall and human, Commander. Reese, the taller one, said, "You have violated interspecies housing regulations. You are sheltering a non-recognized alien female without council permission. This is a warning," the short one added, his voice flat like a machine. "Failure to hand over the subject within 24 hours will result in court-martial." Yalin didn't flinch. He crossed his arms and said, "She's not a subject. She's a child. She has no home, no record, and no protection." The agents looked at each other. Unimpressed. "The law is clear," the human said. "She's not classified as a sentient life form by the council. That's because your system is broken," Yulin replied. "You'd rather call her salvage than admit she's alive." The shorter agent stepped forward, voice sharper. "You were warned, Commander. Care for that thing any longer, and you'll lose your rank, your rights, and your citizenship." They turned and left without another word, the van lifting off into the sky. Yulin stood there for a moment, breathing hard. When he turned around, Elira was standing behind him, eyes wide. "You'll get in trouble because of me," she whispered. He knelt in front of her. "You are not the problem, Elira, they are." That evening, he called an emergency meeting with Dr. Rena and a friend named Kale. Kale was a hacker, once arrested for breaking into galactic systems. Now working in secret, together, they planned what Yalin called Operation Shield. They would expose what had been done to Elira and others like her. Rena looked through old medical reports. Kale cracked into dark data streams, files hidden by the council, and Yalin gathered it all. He read about hundreds of children like Elira, taken from poor planets, sold to private owners, marked as non-sentient biologicals, no names, no rights, no future. Elira sat in the corner, hugging her knees. She listened quietly, understanding more than they thought. "These people," she asked, "the ones who took us, did they work for the council?" Yalin looked at her and nodded slowly. "Yes," he said. "Some did, others just looked away." She didn't cry, she just stared at the wall. "Lost in memories. They said we were lucky," she whispered. "They said we were saved from our useless lives." Yulin walked over and sat beside her. "You weren't useless," he said softly. "You were stolen the next morning." Yulin sent the first part of their evidence to an underground journalist network. It was risky, but the galaxy needed to see the truth. Pictures, names, council documents, medical files, all proving the crimes. He didn't sign his name, but it wouldn't take long for people to figure out where the leak came from. The story exploded across the net within hours. Hashtag Shadow Children. Hashtag Council Crimes. Hashtag Lyra Lives. The council sent more agents. Saul's military account was frozen. His access codes revoked. But he didn't care. He told Lyra, "If this is the price of doing the right thing, I'll pay it." Lyra looked up at him, voice small. "What happens now?" Yalin took a deep breath. "They'll come again, maybe harder this time," he said. "But I have one more plan." He opened a secret crate hidden beneath the floor. Inside was an old military passcode card, some credits, and a map. A ship. "Waits in the wastelands," he said. "It's old, but fast. We'll run if we have to." Lyra stepped closer, her hands trembling. "I don't want to run forever." She said, "I want to live." Yalin smiled gently. "Then let's make sure we do both." The night fell heavy on the city. Far away, council lights began to search the skies. But inside the shelter, two souls, one human. One alien were preparing for the fight of their lives. The shelter was dark except for the glow of a single lamp. Lyra sat beside Jalan, her small fingers holding a warm cup of tea. She stared at the screen in front of them, filled with names and secret codes. Each file that Kale had uncovered told a piece of the same terrible story. There were hundreds, maybe thousands of alien children like her, stolen, labeled as non-persons, and traded like machines. Some were used for work, others for worse. Most had vanished, never seen again. Yalin scrolled through one file and stopped. "Lyra," he said slowly. "Look at this," he pointed to an image, a blurry photo of a group of children lined up in a dirty metal room. Her eyes widened. "That's me," she whispered. "And that girl beside me. She was my friend." The document attached to the image read, "Shipment 328Z. Species unregistered clearance. Biosalvage status. Disposed or distributed." Laura felt the air leave her chest. She couldn't move. Her friend, the one with golden eyes and short horns, had been listed as disposed. She was only 8. They lied to everyone. Yalin said, voice heavy with anger. They didn't just ignore it, they helped it happen. Kale leaned back from the console, rubbing his tired eyes. "I traced the funding," he said. Money went from the council's science division to private labs, then to holding camps, all covered under resource recovery programs. Lyra turned her head slowly. "Does that mean the council wanted this?" "Yes," Kale answered softly. "Or at least, they didn't stop it." Yalin stood, pacing the floor. He slammed a fist against the wall. "Thousands of lives," he said, "ruined for profit, and now they're trying to erase it." All Lyra spoke again, voice almost a whisper. "What happens if they find us before the truth spreads?" Yalin looked at her, eyes calm but firm. "Then we disappear," he said. "We get on that ship and go somewhere they can't follow." "But they'll come after you," Lyra said. "They'll say you're a traitor." Yalin knelt beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Let them," he said. "I'd rather be a traitor to monsters than a hero to cowards." That night, Kale uploaded the final set of files to a secure StarNet stream. The galaxy would know everything by dawn, but dawn never came, because just before sunrise, the power in the shelter cut out. Yalin moved fast, grabbing his pulse weapon and signaling Kale to cover the back door. "Lyra, stay low," he ordered. The walls shook as something hit the side of the shelter. A voice echoed from outside, loud and cold. "Commander Reese, you are harboring a stolen bio-unit. Release her and surrender." Lyra froze, terror spreading through her bones. She remembered that voice. It was the same voice from the auction ship. It's the man who called them numbers instead of names. Yalin turned to her. "We don't have much time," he said. "You remember the path to the old tunnel behind the shelter?" She nodded. "Good. Take this." He handed her a small silver card. It'll unlock the ship once you reach the hangar. But what about you? She asked, voice shaking. I'll hold them off, he said. I just need 10 minutes. No, she whispered. I don't want to leave you. You have to, Yalin said gently. You're the only proof that everything we found is real. You carried the truth, Alira. Her eyes filled with tears. Not from fear, but from the pain of leaving the only person who had ever protected her. Still, she nodded. She was stronger now. She had to be. Kale opened the back door, signaling that the path was clear. Alira, go, Yolan said. And don't look back. She ran, heart pounding through smoke and darkness. Behind her, the shelter burned, and pulse shots fired into the night. Alira didn't stop. She moved through the tunnels, climbed over fallen walls, crossed frozen pipes. At last, she reached the hangar, a wide-open field of old ships. Most were rusted or broken. But in the far corner, under a cover of metal sheets, was the one Yalan had promised. She slid the silver card into the console. The door hissed open, inside. The ship smelled of old wires and dust, but the systems lit up with a soft hum. She sat in the pilot seat. Hands shaking, she looked back once, hoping, praying that Yolan would appear. He didn't, but she didn't cry. She gripped the controls. Her small fingers steady. She had something more important now. A mission. A voice, a future. The ship lifted off the ground, silent and fast. Alira flew alone into the stars behind her. The city burned with a fire of secrets exposed, and somewhere below, a human had made the greatest sacrifice to give her the sky. Asterisk, the stars stretched wide in front of her. Alira sat in the pilot seat, hands tight on the old controls. The ship shook as it rose, but she didn't let go. The engine roared behind her like a sleeping beast waking up. Smoke and fire filled the skies below. She looked once more at the city she was leaving. Dravari Prime, cold and cruel, now burning. With the truth, but she didn't cry. Not now. She couldn't cry while Yolan might still be fighting. She couldn't cry while the sky was not yet safe. The old ship creaked as it cut through the upper layers of the atmosphere. Alira had never flown a ship before, truly, but something inside her knew what to do. Maybe it was instinct, or something hidden in her mind from long ago. Or maybe it was Jalen's words still echoing inside her. You can fly, Alira. A warning light blinked red. Incoming signal detected. She tapped the panel and saw two black ships behind her. Fast and sharp, Council enforcement vessels. They had followed her, she gasped, pressing buttons quickly. The engines screamed as the ship tilted hard to the right. She ducked through clouds and broken air paths, flying like a shadow. The CUM unit buzzed. This is Council Patrol 718. Surrender your vessel. You are harboring stolen government property. Alira shook her head, her voice low but strong. I'm not property, she whispered to herself. I'm a person. Lasers fired. Flashing past her window, she turned sharply, diving. Low through an old transport lane, the ship rattled. Warning lights blazed. A small explosion hit the back hull. She screamed, gripping the seat. But the ship held together, just barely. She opened the storage panel beside her, searching fast. Inside, she found a dusty box with Jalen's name on it. She pulled it open. Inside was a small defense drone, 2 flare pods, and a folded note. She unfolded the note quickly. If they come after you, don't fly like them. Fly like you. Let the stars be your guide. Jalira smiled, eyes burning. She grabbed the flare pods and loaded them into the ship's rear launcher. Then she rose higher, letting the black ships follow. Closer, faster. Right behind her, she counted 1, 2, 3, fire. The flares exploded in a burst of white light, blinding the ships behind her. One of them spun out of control, crashing into a floating tower. The second kept chasing, but slower now. She pressed the drone activation. It flew out and shot a stream of electric bursts at the enemy's engines. The second ship stalled, smoke rising from its core. Alira dove into space, engines screaming. She had made it through the fire, but she was not free yet. The ship's systems were failing. She needed a safe place fast. She opened the map Yalan had programmed. A blinking mark showed in a nearby system. Sanctuary 9. It read, uncharted, low traffic, friendly. She set the course. The jump engine charged slowly, too slowly. A light flickered on the side. Panel incoming message encrypted. She tapped it, heart pounding. It was a video file. Shaky and full of static, but the voice was clear. Yalan. Alira, he said, his face bruised, blood on his collar. If you're seeing this, Key, it means you got away. I'm proud of you. He coughed hard, but kept speaking. There. Going to lie. Say I betrayed humanity. But you and I both know what's true. They fear you, Alira. Because you're proof that their system is broken. That their rules are built on pain. His eyes softened. You're more than just a girl from the streets. You're brave, you're smart, and you matter. You saved yourself, and maybe now you'll save others too. The video ended. Alira sat in silence. Tears sliding down her cheeks, not from fear, but from love. She pressed the jump button. The stars bent around her. The ship launched into hyperspace, carrying her far from the planet that tried to bury her inside the dark cockpit. She closed her eyes. She remembered Jalen's voice, the way he held her coat around her shoulders. The way he never asked for anything in return. She whispered, "Thank you." The stars lit the path ahead. Alira was no longer running. She was moving forward. With the truth, with the memories, and with a promise to never be silent again. The stars slowed as the jump ended. Alira blinked against the sudden calm. Her hands still rested on the ship's controls, shaking slightly. Everything was quiet now. No sirens, no weapons. No voices calling her property outside the window. A planet floated in deep space, small, green, peaceful. A quiet world far from Dravari Prime, far from pain. Sanctuary 9, she whispered. Reading the words glowing on her map, this was the place Yalan had told her about. Unmarked, forgotten, free. The ship landed slowly in a clearing surrounded by tall silver trees. Their leaves shimmered like glass in the morning light. As the hatch opened, warm air touched her skin. It smelled like soil, rain, and something sweet she didn't know how to name. Alira stepped out, holding a small bag of food, Jalen's note, and the memory core filled with evidence. She walked carefully, unsure if this place was truly safe. But after a few steps, she saw someone waiting at the edge of the trees. A woman with bronze skin and soft blue eyes stood there. Her clothes were simple, her smile warm. Alira, she asked gently. Alira froze, her heart pounding. Yes, she replied, voice small. I came from Dravari Prime. The woman nodded slowly. I know. We received the signal from your ship. Come, child, you're safe here. Alira followed her through the trees into a village. It was built into the forest itself, homes. Made from living wood and glowing stone, aliens of all kinds walked peacefully. Laughing, talking, working together. No guards, no fences, no cages. They looked at Alira. Not with fear or anger, but with soft eyes full of kindness. She had never felt anything like it before. Not on her home planet. Not in the camps. Not in the streets. The woman took her to a small room with a soft bed, food on the table, and clean clothes folded in a basket. Rest, she said. When you're ready, we can talk. Alira touched the bed and almost cried. It was the first bed that was truly hers. She slept for hours, wrapped in silence and peace. And when she awoke, she felt different, not healed, but no longer hollow. Later that evening, she met the village elder, an old creature with wings like paper and eyes like stars. They spoke gently, listening to her story. She told them everything about the camps, the other children, the pain, and about Yolan. The elder said he gave his life for a truth the galaxy refused to see. You carry that truth now, Elira, and with it, you can change the future. Elira looked down at her hands, once weak, once afraid. Now they held purpose. I want to help others like me, she said. Others who were forgotten. The elder nodded. Then you will need a new name, they said. One that belongs to your new life, not the pain of your past. Elira thought for a moment, and shook her head slowly. No, she said. I want to keep my name. Because he said it was beautiful the next day. She connected the ship's memory core to the village network. They uploaded every file, every photo, every document into the StarNet. No more hiding, no more secrets. The galaxy would. No. Messages came in from other planets' activists, lawyers, reporters, people from every corner of space asking, who is Elira? And her answer was simple. I was a slave, then I was forgotten. But now I speak. Weeks passed. Elira learned to fly better, learned to write, to read, to speak before groups. She told her story again and again, and every time someone cried, someone stood up, someone joined her cause. One day, she walked through the forest and heard a small cry behind a tree. She looked and found a young alien girl, skin bruised, eyes wide with fear. She didn't ask questions. She just knelt and offered her hand. You're not broken, Elira whispered. I used to be like you. But a human stepped in and gave me a second chance. Now I'll do the same for you. The girl reached for her hand, trembling, and in that moment, Elira knew. Jalen's fight wasn't over, had just begun through her. She wasn't running anymore. She was building, leading, protecting. She had turned her pain into power, and her story into a light for others. The sky above Sanctuary 9 was clear that night. Elira stood outside, looking up at the stars. She held the old note in her hand, reading it again. Fly like you. And she did, every day for him. For the children still waiting, and for the name she had earned with fire, Elira, the voice that could not be silenced.